Oh no, I got some more Charlie Kirk for you here. I don't want to talk about it, but the topic is too much. I couldn't resist. So Charlie Kirk was on his radio show, his podcast, whatever it is, and he made an astonishing claim about what lefties should and shouldn't be allowed to do.
So you destroy California, burn it to the ground metaphorically, so then you want to go to Montana and Arizona to continue to spread the pathogen. States that saw the biggest increase in move-ins from San Francisco during the pandemic by raw numbers. And the fewer people are moving to California. During the pandemic, the rate of people migrating to California is at a record low, and out of is at a record high. The net domestic California migration by quarter, do you know how many people are leaving California every 3 months? 200,000 people are leaving California every 3 months. 200,000 people. And the amount of people moving into it are at record lows as well. So, but here's my provocative take. The people of Montana should say, you're not welcome here. Don't bring your values and your Berkeley worldview to this untouched slice of God's country. They're going to destroy Montana. They will. They're good at it. The activist groups will infiltrate. The racial groups will, in fact, now thankfully there's some good conservatives like the wonderful governor of Montana, my friend Governor Gianforte. But if this is not addressed and this migration continues, they're like locusts. They will not stop. San Francisco, destroyed. Montana, they'll destroy that. Then they'll go to Utah. Then they'll go to Nevada. Then they'll go to Alaska. Whatever the last slice of heaven is, they will try to bring hell to it.
Wow. So first, some obvious points. That is beyond illegal. It is as unconstitutional as you can get. You can't restrict the free flow of movement between states within a country. It's not the way it works. You cannot do that in the U.S., and there's case law about this that goes back a really long time. There are states that wanted to have their own border policy that border Mexico. And even when it comes to bordering Mexico, the states are not allowed to implement their own border policy. That's federal policy. So what do you want? Like, in his theoretical world, could you have all 50 states build their own walls around their respective states? That's not okay. That's not allowed. That is not legal, and that should be obvious. The other point is just this assumption that, like, well, obviously everybody's moving out as a lefty. That's not true at all. Plenty of the people who are, migrating away from left-wing states or not left-wing, democratic stronghold states and moving to red states, they're righties or they're centrist. So plenty of them are lefties, but this idea that, like, it's all a monolith. If you're from, a democratic state, it's a monolith. The whole state is a monolith. Everybody thinks the same. Everybody acts the same. And then, the point about freedom is the most obvious one. These are the people who pretend like he values freedom and he values that almost above all else. This is the opposite of that. This is an authoritarian approach, an authoritarian policy to have the state government of Montana say to people who want to move there, who are Americans, you're not welcome here. You're not allowed here. Now, remember, all the time, these people, let's have a debate about, our competing values, and I'm all about free speech and open discussion and dialogue, and that's the only way you get the right answer. Does this sound like that? Is that in that spirit and in that vein? It's literally just stay out. We don't like you. And so differing opinions aren't welcome here at all. We want to keep you out. It's astonishing because, look, you never, ever, ever, ever would hear me say something like that about conservatives moving to, a state that I happen to be in. You'd never hear that, ever. Because I actually believe in that, in the value of freedom. Clearly he doesn't. And also, like, what exactly is your issue? My guess is he would go back to, like, the Republican states are more tough on crime, and that's why I like them. And it's like, all right, but let's dive into the details. Let's dive into the specifics, because Charlie Kirk told me he wants to legalize marijuana. Okay, so do you agree with me that we should end the drug war? We've wasted trillions of dollars on it. We've locked up more people than any other developed country, maybe any other country on Earth per capita. We've ruined so many lives. The crime bill was a disaster. Yes, Democrats were on board with that as well as Republicans. That was all a disaster. So if you really believe in freedom, you want to legalize, tax, and regulate drugs. That's what I want. But if he would say, like, oh, the tough on crime thing is why I like Republican states, well, the Republican states are even harsher when it comes to non-violent so-called crimes. So let's talk about the specifics. What's the problem? What exactly are you against in these more Democratic-leaning states? Are you against the state programs that give more people health care? Is that what you're against? I think the Democratic states have that better figured out, if you ask me. He says, don't bring your values here. They're going to destroy Montana. They're like locusts. They're like locusts, and they're going to bring hell here. Look at like the dehumanization and the otherization of people who just disagree with him politically. It's just so silly. By the way, I love how he praises Gianforte there, Greg Gianforte. I don't know if you guys remember that name, but here's what he's most famous for. Body slamming a reporter. I believe the reporter was like a Guardian reporter. He physically assaulted a reporter. Now, let me ask you a question. If a Democratic politician physically assaulted a reporter, would Charlie Kirk be like, yeah, this is my guy here. I like him. Friends with him. No, because if it was a Democrat, he'd be up in arms and screaming about how this is a literal attack on a journalist, which is besmirching the First Amendment and free speech and a free press. And it's an un-American thing to do. He definitely would say that if it was a Democrat who did, but it's a Republican who did it, and so he thinks it's based. Because, you know, the fake news media is so bad. So, yeah, body slam reporters, assault reporters. That's what that guy's most known for. That's what he's most known for. These guys really are something else, huh? Also, I don't know what Charlie's thoughts are on Joe Rogan, but my guess is he wouldn't have said to Rogan, you shouldn't be allowed to move to Austin, Texas. So, do you really believe the thing that you're saying here? Like, ban everybody from red states who don't agree with, you know, the entire doctrine of right-wing politics? Do you really believe it? Do you really want that? God, I get it. He's just trying to fill time on his show, but clearly this stuff is not well thought out. Clearly this stuff is dumb. So there you have it. An authoritarian policy promoted by the so-called freedom lovers. Keep your discourse out of here, even though I pretend like I'm in favor of open discourse and free speech. For the record, I have no doubt that if I was governor of a state, or not even that, if I was president of a country and I somehow had free reign and I implemented a system that I thought was just and fair, I guarantee you a lot of these younger right-wingers would like it there. And here's what I mean. You'd have personal freedoms, you know, so you'd be able to partake in whatever substances you'd like. I'd have gambling legal. But also people would be provided with the basics. People would have healthcare, college or trade school, a living wage, unionization, paid vacation time by law, 4-day work week, universal basic income. It would be a phenomenal place. It would be great. And an ideologically diverse group of people would actually say, I'm genuinely happy here. But he portrays not just the Democrats, but leftism more generally as like a dystopian hellscape that's authoritarian by its nature, as he ironically argues for an authoritarian policy. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.